Welcome back to Inventive Minds, everybody. We are back for episode 3, and today we're diving into the world of accidental genius.
Accidental genius. I like that.
Those inventions, the ones that kind of stumbled into existence, totally reshaped our world.
Yeah, it's funny how we think of inventions, those eureka moments, a straight line to a brilliant invention. But sometimes the most groundbreaking stuff happens by accident.
Right, almost like tripping on a banana peel and landing, boom, face first into a world-changing idea.
Yeah.
And none of this would be possible without the amazing folks at AudioCast Lab India. They're the masterminds behind this podcast, making sure you get to hear all of this cool stuff.
Absolutely. A huge shout out to them.
So back to those oops moments that turned into aha moments. Think about it. What if those inventors just shrugged and said, well, that was clumsy.
Right.
We might not have some of the things we totally rely on today, like antibiotics.
Oh, man, antibiotics. That's a big one. Imagine a world where a little cut could be life-threatening.
Or where bacterial infections are like a constant worry.
It's crazy to think that was the reality before Alexander Fleming stumbled upon penicillin back in 1928.
1928, wow.
He was studying bacteria. And like any good scientist, his lab was probably a little chaotic, let's be honest.
Yeah, could imagine.
But instead of just tossing out a Petri dish that had gotten contaminated, he noticed something strange. Mold was actually killing the bacteria around it.
It's like that mold was playing a microscopic game of Survivor, voting those bacteria right off the island.
It's a good analogy.
Seriously, though, that moldy Petri dish changed everything. It led to the development of antibiotics, which, revolutionized medicine.
Saved countless lives, too.
It really makes you think, how many other breakthroughs are hiding in plain sight?
Right, just waiting for someone to pay attention.
Speaking of amazing discoveries, let's talk about something that's a lifesaver for those late-night cravings.
Oh, you mean the microwave oven?
Well, one and only.
That's a real only in a science lab story, that one.
Right. It all started with Percy Spencer, this engineer working with radar technology.
This was back when radar was still pretty new and exciting.
He's walking past a magnetron one day, and boom, the candy bar in his pocket melts.
Not just a little melty either. We're talking full-on gooey mess.
I bet that was a sticky situation. But instead of just being annoyed, Spencer was curious. He wanted to figure out what happened.
Always a good sign in a scientist.
He realized, wait a minute, it was the magnetron's microwaves that melted that candy bar. And then he saw the potential for something huge.
Yeah, he was like, what if we could use this to cook food?
A revolutionary way to cook quickly.
Microwave.
The microwave oven was born. Can you imagine life without it?
No way, especially for those of us who rely on frozen dinners.
Okay, so from the lab, let's head outdoors.
Outdoors.
You know how sometimes inspiration can strike in the most random places?
Totally, like when you're out in nature.
Exactly. Imagine you're walking in the woods, enjoying the fresh air.
Sounds nice.
Then bam, you realize you're covered in burrs.
Oh, those things.
Sticking to your clothes, your dog's fur, everything. It's like nature's version of Velcro, right?
Pretty much.
No, most people would just brush them off and be annoyed.
Yeah, that's usually the reaction.
But this Swiss engineer, Georges de Mistral, he wasn't satisfied with just brushing them off. He wanted to know, why do these things stick so well?
That's a good question.
He takes a closer look, examines these burrs under a microscope.
I'm guessing you found something interesting.
Oh, yeah. He discovers these tiny hooks on the burrs that were catching on the loops of fabric. Boom, light bulb moment.
Velcro.
Velcro was born.
Wow. Just from a walk in the woods.
From annoying burrs to a revolutionary fastening system.
I guess those burrs were nature's blueprint.
And we see Velcro everywhere. Shoes, backpacks, even spacesuits.
Spacesuits?
Yeah, imagine trying to keep your tools organized in zero gravity without it. Total chaos.
Yeah, that would be a nightmare.
Our final accidental invention today is something we probably all use.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
The Post-it note. Can you believe there was a time when those little sticky squares didn't exist?
Wow, it's hard to imagine a world without them.
But their story, it's all about embracing those moments when things don't go as planned.
I love those stories.
It's a reminder that sometimes, those epic fails can turn into the biggest wins.
Totally.
So picture this. Dr. Spencer Silver, a scientist at 3M, he's trying to make this super strong adhesive.
Makes sense. That's what 3M is known for.
Right. But instead of this industrial strength glue, he ends up with something that's kind of weak, a pressure-sensitive adhesive.
Oh no, a total flop, right?
You'd think so. But this is where the story gets interesting.
Okay, I'm all ears.
For years, Silver's invention just sits there collecting dust.
Like a forgotten treasure.
Then along comes Arthur Fry,
Arthur Fry.
a colleague of Silver's. Also a choir singer, fun fact. Fry's having this problem with his bookmark.
Bookmarks.
They keep falling out of his hymn book during choir practice.
Oh.
Super annoying.
Oh, I can relate to that. Bookmarks can be tricky.
Fry remembers Silver's invention, that weak adhesive, and thinks, wait a minute.
A light bulb moment.
Yes. What if I used this to create a bookmark that would stick but wouldn't damage the pages? And just like that, the Post-it note is born.
Wow, that's brilliant.
Right. From a failed adhesive to a global phenomenon. It's crazy to think how many things we use Post-it notes for today.
They're a lifesaver for brainstorming, reminders, and just general organization.
Okay, we've talked about penicillin, microwaves, Velcro, Post-it notes, all born from accidents. What do they have in common?
That's a great question. I think it's more than just luck.
Right. It's like these inventors, they had something special. They were able to see the potential in those unexpected moments.
Absolutely. They had that spark of curiosity, that willingness to experiment and to see failure as an opportunity.
We're going to dig into that more in the next part of our episode. But for those of you who are hooked on these stories and want to learn more about how serendipity has shaped our world, I highly recommend How We Got to Now by Stephen Johnson.
It's a fantastic book, really mind-blowing.
You can find a link to it in the episode description. It'll make you look at the world in a whole new way. Trust me. But for now, stick around for part 2 of our Accidental Genius episode. We'll be back after a short break.
Welcome back to Inventive Minds. We're diving deeper into those aha moments that weren't planned but totally changed things.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. We often think about geniuses working alone, right? Toiling away until they have a breakthrough.
Yeah, that classic image of the lone inventor.
But it seems like a lot of these accidental inventions came from people working together, bouncing ideas off each other.
You're absolutely right. It was teamwork that sparked a lot of these discoveries, different minds coming together.
Like the Post-it note. Spencer Silver made the adhesive, but it was Arthur Fry who saw it could be a bookmark and made it happen.
Exactly. That's a key lesson right there. If you want to encourage innovation, whether it's at work, school, or just in life, you got to make people feel comfortable sharing their ideas.
Even the crazy ones.
Especially the crazy ones. Sometimes those lead to the most amazing breakthroughs.
Right. It's like someone in a brainstorming session throws out a totally outlandish idea. Then someone else builds on it and suddenly, bam, you have something new and amazing.
Totally. Collaboration helps us see things from different angles, connect the dots in ways we wouldn't on our own.
Okay, so we've got observation, experimentation, collaboration.
Yeah.
But there's one more thing that seems super important in these accidental genius stories.
What's that?
Timing.
Ah, yes. Timing is huge. It can make or break whether an invention takes off.
Like penicillin. Fleming discovered it in the 20s, but it didn't become widely used until the 40s.
Right when it was needed the most during World War II.
Exactly. Sometimes an invention might be ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Like the world just isn't ready for it yet.
The tech or the infrastructure might not be there to support it yet.
Makes you wonder how many amazing inventions are out there just waiting for the right moment to shine.
Right. It's like a treasure chest of ideas waiting to be unlocked.
Now, we've been focusing on the good side of accidental genius. But we have to admit, not all accidents end well.
True. Some can have really bad consequences. It's important to be aware of the risks when we're experimenting.
And sometimes, what seems like a great idea at first can have unintended consequences down the road.
We need to be careful and responsible with innovation, always thinking about the potential impact, good and bad.
I like to think of it as, with great innovation comes great responsibility.
Perfectly put. Innovation should make the world a better place. And that means being both creative and responsible.
So one thing that's really striking about all these stories is how they challenge our ideas about how innovation works.
How so?
We tend to think it's a straight line, a clear process. But these inventions show it can be messy, unpredictable.
Absolutely. And that's a good thing. When we let go of needing to control everything, embrace the unexpected, that's when amazing things can happen.
Like that saying, the best laid plans of mice and men often go awry.
Exactly. Those detours can lead to the most incredible places.
You're listening to Inventive Minds. And if these accidental inventions have got you curious and you want to explore more, I highly recommend Mistakes That Worked by Charlotte Foltz-Jones.
Oh yeah, that's a classic.
It's all about everyday things that came from mistakes. You can find a link in the episode description.
It's a great reminder that amazing things can come from the most unexpected places.
So as we wrap up this part of our chat, it's important to remember that accidental genius isn't just for scientists and inventors.
It's a way of thinking, something we can all cultivate.
Right. Being curious about the world, open to new possibilities, and not afraid to experiment and maybe even fail sometimes.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Remember, every mistake, every surprise, every wrong turn is a chance to learn and grow. So stay curious, keep your eyes open, and you might just find your own moment of accidental genius.
We've talked about all these amazing accidental inventions,
Yeah.
but how does this apply to us regular folks? Are we just supposed to admire the geniuses and their lucky breaks?
Not at all. We can all tap into that accidental genius potential. It's not about having a lab or a fancy title.
Okay, so how do we unlock that inner accidental genius? What's the secret?
Well, there's no magic formula, but remember those qualities we talked about. Observation, curiosity, trying new things, and not being afraid of failure. Those are things anyone can do.
So it's like being more aware of what's going on around us.
Yeah.
And not ignoring those little, that's weird moments.
Exactly. It's about seeing those little glitches in everyday life and thinking, what if? What if there's a better way? What if this could lead to something cool and new?
I love that. It's like turning life into a giant what-if game.
And you never know what awesome things you might discover. Remember, some of the best inventions came from things going wrong, experiments failing, or taking a wrong turn and ending up somewhere totally unexpected.
It's like those GPS fails that lead you to this amazing hidden restaurant.
Exactly. And speaking of happy accidents, if this episode has sparked your own creative energy and you're thinking, I have some ideas I want to share with the world, well, guess what? AudioCast Lab India can help you do just that.
They're the best. They make this podcast sound so good, so you know you're in good hands.
They can help you tell your story, share your message, or create something amazing with audio. Check out the link in the episode description to learn more. But before we go, what really stood out to you about all these stories?
I think for me, it's the reminder that innovation doesn't have to be this big planned out thing. It can be those small moments of chance we often miss. Noticing the unexpected, asking questions, and not being afraid to try things out.
That's a great takeaway. And for our listeners, think about this. What seemingly small things have you noticed lately that might actually hold hidden potential? What mistakes or unexpected things have you come across that you could see as opportunities?
That's a great challenge. It's all about looking at the world in a new way. And that wraps up this episode of Inventive Minds. We hope you enjoyed exploring accidental genius with us.
We'll be back with more inspiring stories about invention. Our next episode is From Failures to Firsts, The Road to Breakthroughs. It's going to be a good one. So make sure you subscribe and stay tuned.
Until then, keep your minds open to the unexpected, and who knows, you might stumble upon your own accidental genius.